Welcome to the second part of emotional processing one-on-one. And today I'm going to share with you the second set of steps that we want to implement to feel like we are really healing our relationship with ourselves and our emotions, and like we are creating secure attachment with whatever is going on in our body and our inner landscape, in our inner world. So I'm going to continue with point number 4 or step number 4, which is all about breaking points or relapse and reparenting. And what I mean by that is that I've noticed that whenever I start working with a client on a certain pattern or a certain emotion, every time we start working on specific pattern, there is going to be something in their life that comes up and triggers the old emotional response, the old emotional wounding, the old belief, whether it's that they don't feel chosen in a relationship, or maybe they don't get the promotion they wanted, or a friend doesn't call them back, and there is this same pattern that we started to work on and it's coming up full force. And in these, what I call breaking points, there is so much power and there is also so much gold in those breaking points, because that's when we can give ourselves reparative experiences or experience. So maybe in the past, whenever you felt sad or you felt, you felt sad or you felt some uncomfortable emotion. Maybe you were ignored, whether it was by the primary caregiver or people in your community or friends. And that's what created that feeling of isolation or loneliness in you and in your body. And so, what is so crucial is that the next time you feel that uncomfortable situation or emotion coming up, you find yourself at a breaking point where it's the question of, am I going to treat myself the same way I was treated in the past and thus reinforce the pattern? Or am I going to treat myself with curiosity, understanding, compassion, and support? And in my experience and in my opinion, and I already mentioned this in other videos, but I will say it again because I feel like this is the most important thing for us to get. And it's that the quality of your relationship with yourself and the presence you can bring to those uncomfortable emotions or states is so much more powerful and so much more healing than any tool that I can give you. Those tools are there to help you elicit a state of safety and elicit a state of presence, but ultimately it will be the relationship you have with yourself and some of these uncomfortable emotions that are coming up that will heal those painful points and that will change the patterns that we engage in, the unhealthy patterns that we engage in the past. So maybe in the past, when you found yourself feeling triggered or overwhelmed, or you, I sometimes call it, you had this aversion to certain emotion, maybe sadness, you will automatically turn on TV or binge watch a whole series. On certain platforms, and you will like watch TV for hours and hours to dissociate, to distract yourself from what's going on in your body, or you would leave the room because you didn't want to engage in a conflict or in some type of communication with the person you are in a relationship with. And so these breaking points, when we feel like we are on the verge of repeating the old pattern because of some trigger that happened in our life or some situation that triggered the old emotions, that's the situation where we have the most power to change the relationship we have with ourselves and with our emotion. And part of that is, I'm sure you heard the term, part of that is learning to reparent ourselves. And in my experience and in my practice and how I teach it is just we want to create a new relationship or a healthy relationship that we have with our inner world and with our body. And part of the reparenting process is anticipating our needs. So just knowing what are the people, what are the situations in my life that are going to trigger me, and then working with that and creating an action plan or a plan of what I need to do when I start feeling myself getting overwhelmed, when I start feeling myself getting activated. It's almost as if you are becoming the healthy parent to yourself and to some parts of you that maybe felt invisible in the past, or they felt overwhelmed by the world and relationships and how people are maybe sometimes harsh with them or ignoring them. Um, so we want to start anticipating our needs and anticipating our nervous system state and then learning how to regulate ourselves from there. We want to create strategies to meet our needs. So we don't want to wait till that point where we become overwhelmed. We want to create a plan that helps us to feel supported and safe as we are going through life and living our life, so that we build capacity for resilience. Okay, and then the second to last point, so the fifth point or fifth step in emotional regulation, is, as I teach it, is that is the understanding that learning information or watching this type of videos doesn't lead to the same results as actually doing the inner work. Sometimes people, and this is very common, we can be digesting information for years and years, and people think that watching videos like these or listening to podcasts or reading books is doing the inner work. It really is not the same as doing the work. It's as if you were watching a video of someone working out and then working out yourself. That's the real difference between just digesting more information and maybe learning about your attachment style and learning about the emotional triggers, and then actually taking your body through the experience of regulating or finding safety or finding a different emotion in your body when you are feeling overwhelmed, or finding a feeling of safety when you are feeling overwhelmed, or being there with yourself and sitting with yourself and learning to process as you are feeling sad. So sometimes what I see is that, let's say, we can find ourselves emotionally triggered, and then instead of watching your favorite TV show, you are going to listen to videos like this. It's still a form of distraction. I know that we are trying to learn how to heal this and learn how to do the inner work and how to process, and these videos can be very helpful, but we don't want to mistake these types of videos with actually doing the inner work that changes the experience you feel in your body. What I want to say is that this type of content can be helpful if you have a person you like and a person you resonate with and a person that feels safe, and the type of content or those types of videos can actually help you co-regulate. So if I am in a regulated nervous system state, if I am in a state of safety and I feel connected to myself and I feel connected to whoever I'm talking to, then your nervous system can start co-regulating with my nervous system, and you can start feeling safer, you can start feeling more hopeful at the end. However, that's still co-regulation. It doesn't teach your body to self-regulate and to do the inner work to become your own best parent, become your healthy parent. And what is really beneficial when we start actually doing the deeper inner work, which I do either in one-on-one sessions or in the Sanctuary, which is a self-paced program for women. When we do the type of the inner work that I do in there with my clients, what's crucial is to learn to repeat new pattern of behavior, healthy pattern of behavior, or do the emotional processing work over time using baby steps. So the change happens over time. It doesn't happen overnight, it happens over time. As we learn to feel different experiences and different sensations in our body, and as we learn to access our cognitive functions even when we are feeling emotional. And that's also part of the process of emotional regulation. We want to learn how to access our cognitive functions when we feel emotional, and that takes practice. Um, because when we are feeling emotionally flooded, our cognitive functions are the first ones that are going to fly out of the window. So you find it hard to maybe form an idea or formulate a sentence, a phrase. You will find it hard to express your needs, and we will go into trauma responses such as flight or freeze. And then also part of this fifth step, so understanding that learning information is not the same as doing the inner work, is not feeling shame around needing to learn new skills. We sometimes have this maybe idea when it comes to our inner world and emotions because they are invisible. We are the only ones that feel the inner impact of that and how uncomfortable some of those emotions or experiences or even trauma responses can feel in our body because we are the only ones who feel the direct impact. Of course, other people can feel the impact of our emotions or experiences by the behavior that we engage in, but we are the only ones that feel how uncomfortable some of these emotions and pain points can feel. We may have this idea that we should know how to manage it, or like I should know what to do with that. But I want to put it out there that learning emotional regulation skills or nervous system regulation skills is like any time or type of learning. You wouldn't expect yourself to know how to dance if you never danced before, or you wouldn't expect a child to know how to read if you haven't taught them. And this is the same process. If your parents were not really emotionally mature and skilled in emotional attunement and connecting with you and teaching you how to navigate some of the big emotions, then you cannot expect yourself to know how to do that with yourself and for yourself. And so the last step then is proactively changing our emotional default. So you really, when it comes to emotional regulation, you don't want to wait until that point in time where you become frustrated or you overreact or you start raising your voice because you are so you ventured so far away from that state of safety and connection that now you don't know how to find your way back. So, for instance, in the sanctuary, we always teach our body with different practices and tools how to come back home to that state of safety, day in and day out. It's like a workout, it's like a practice, because with every practice or with every exercise that's in there, you are learning to create new neural pathways. And so over time, you will find it easier to stay in a state of to stay in a state of safety, even when a wave of uncomfortable emotion comes up, or someone says something that is particularly hurtful to you, but now you have developed that safe, connected relationship with yourself. You can trust yourself, and most importantly, you can stay connected to yourself even when something feels painful. So we want to change that default proactively. And I will just say that our emotional default can be very sneaky to become aware of and to notice, because for some people there can be we can differentiate the state that they felt before something traumatic happened and after. So they can have something like a reference point to what they are working towards or what they want to restore. But however, for the majority of people, for the majority of us, we have been brought up, we were growing up with certain generational patterns or generational patterns where we haven't even experienced certain emotions in our body since we were born. So, or even before that, if it's generational trauma. So, um, let's say you might feel like all people in the world feel the same level of disempowerment or not enoughness as you, or currently in the sanctuary, we are covering some of the codependent patterns. So you might think like you might feel like everyone feels responsible for other people's emotional state and they want to help other people to feel better. However, that's not the truth. That's how we feel when we haven't healed our codependency. And so these emotional default states are sometimes sneaky to spot because they feel so natural to us. Like you might be living with the underlying feeling of anxiety or fear. Let's say maybe if you are a man, you might feel like there is this belief in your system that all women are gold diggers, and you feel like all men feel the same way towards women. Or if you are a woman, you might feel like every woman feels afraid of men or feels like they are going to hurt her or cheat on her. However, there are women who haven't been brought up with that same sense or feeling of fear in their body. And it feels normal to you because that's what you know, that has been your whole experience of life. So proactively changing these default states is where the growth happens and where we build the capacity to be comfortable with the situations that we may encounter or engage with. And it also changes quality of our relationships so much. So we always want to recognize our default state, recognize our capacity, and then take it from there. Okay, so this was the last step I have prepared for you. I hope you found it helpful. If you would like to leave me a comment, I would love to read them and read some takeaways or maybe questions that you have. And I will see you in the next one.